Welcome to the FocusCast. Today is our guest, Alex Stadler. Oh my gosh, 6-figure massage therapist. But you know what, bro?
What's that?
This dude's super cool.
Absolutely.
And instead of trying to tell you who he is, I thought it best just to read what he says about himself off his website.
Yeah, let's go ahead right here. You ready?
Let's do it with a low, chill voice.
This is the only voice I have.
That's right.
When I started Full Compass Massage, I knew that my main focus would be to provide unparalleled healing and education. And I was certain that by always delivering the highest quality I could, that the business would grow.
My intentions were always to ally with synergistic partners in wellness, to teach new body workers to listen to the body, as well as to consider the deepest components of wellness.
We would educate those seeking answers how to care for themselves and help them find continued partnerships for their wellness.
It is still my goal today. I love it. Oh my gosh. So Alex Stadler, who also is an owner of Subterranean, Unrestricted Productions and Audio Recordings, and is in a band called
Tragic Love.
We should have had a clip of the song anyway, but I say we should welcome our guest.
Let's do it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that soft intro.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm Jonathan Noel.
And I'm Brian Noel,
And I'm apparently Alex Stadler.
This is the FocusCast
where we drop focus guides for solopreneurs and side hustlers
with a 6, 7, 8
figure goal. So let's get focused as boy.
Nice. That's snazzy there. I like that. I like that little hit.
Oh,
Very nice.
I just feel good being next to this guy. I don't know what it is.
It's positive energy.
It's the lavender. It might be that.
Oh, I love it. Well, as we do with our guest episodes, we are going to ask you a bunch of questions first about the company, just so people know who you are and what you do. And then we're going to get into your habits of focus and your deepest inner demons and call them out on this podcast and talk through it.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, if I known I was getting psychological care, I wouldn't ask for that big payment, So.
That's right. That's right.
Right on.
So we talked about Full Compass. Let's hit that real quick. I know it's when people hear massage, they might be thinking of cucumbers in the eyes, but this is a little different. This is what is it? Fascial release.
Well, so we do a lot of myofascial release. There's a big focus on kinesiology, which is the movement of the body. If you get into the doctor side of kinesiology, because I have to be careful about how much you get me on my runs here.
Nice.
But if you talk about kinesiology, they talk about everything about how the body is functionally supposed to move, as well as you can muscle test to find things in the body, as well as you can do really small and intricate things to change the way organs function. It goes and goes and goes and goes. It's big rabbit hole.
Wow.
So we're very posturally focused. When people think massage therapy, they don't typically think about what we do. I mean, yeah, we're touching bodies, but we're also doing really thorough physical examinations. John knows. I mean, he's asking the question, but he knows. He's been there.
Yeah.
He's felt the touch.
This is not spa day massage. This is fixing chronic problems you've had, releasing tension that you've been holding on to that you probably, some of it you didn't even know you had for decades.
A lot, because stuff will get hidden under the big stuff. You're like, oh yeah, my shoulder hurts, and you come in, my shoulder hurts, and that gets fixed pretty quick. We figure that out. Most importantly, the educate part. I always tell people, we say, providing wellness through healing, touch, and education. I'm like, education should be italicized, bold, underline, because I get you for maybe a couple hours or something, but you have you all the time. So so if you know how to fix it, that's much better.
Yep.
The byline, like you go to a doctor to see him about something, they're going to say, we're looking for client or patient compliance. You hear those words before? Those are bad words to me. Those are 4-letter words, even though there's many more letters.
This would be like going to a top tier doctor to ask him if to ask him if you need to drink more water.
Right.
It's you don't want to show up to Alex with the absolute most basic things that you could be fixing by yourself.
Well, yeah, actually, you can.
You
but,
can,
but we're looking for
he's trying to teach you.
Yeah, we want client comprehension.
Yeah.
If you understand why it's happening, if you understand something you can do to make it better, and you are empowered to do that, we talk a lot about agency.
Yeah.
Like, do you have your own power to make yourself better? And if you feel like you have that and you know how to do it, like people think you're going to be angry. People come in and they're like, "You're going to be angry, man." I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's your body, man. It's your body." Like, so I'm going to ask you. I already know before I ask people, like, "Did you do that stretch?" And I know, and I'm like, "Yeah, they did it 3 times," and they're like, "Well, some," and I'm like, "All right, good." You be accomplished in that. Or sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, you're going to be angry." I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's your body." So we want client comprehension. It's a very different concept in wellness, I think, for a lot of people.
Because if you teach them how to fix their own body, they might not come back, and that really scares the medical industry.
Oh yeah, I had this marketing guy one time when I used to actually work closer up here in Kennesaw. I was working with this chiropractor, and this guy was like, "Hey man, you want people to come in over and over and over." I'm like, "No, I want people to get better, and I want them to tell other people." And I don't do any advertising.
Yeah,
I don't have to do any advertising. I'm here because you guys because you guys are cool. And look how snazzy you look in your off-color oranges, and it's really snazzy. I'm here for that, but we don't do any advertising. All of our clients tell people, and we're never short. You're never short.
Never.
Yeah. Jonathan told me about Alex, and I wanted to go, and it was a 2-month wait time. And which is great, right? Good for you from a reputable and a business standpoint. And then for me, I'm very it's hard for me to plan like 2 months out. So
no, I hear you.
But I need it. That's
Yes,
that's what I know.
Those are the post-COVID times. Like pre-COVID,
yeah.
it was like 3 to 6 months. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, we got another guy there, and probably bring some more people on now. COVID really threw a wrench in some of the plans, if you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So what other things do you do?
Well, that's a good question. I hate it when people meet you at a party and they're like, "So what do you do?"
Oh,
too much.
Like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I do a lot of things, man." Like,
Yeah.
and for most people, I do a lot of things. So yeah, I do full compass massage, but then as you mentioned, like I've got the recording studio, Supar, or Subterranean Unrestricted Productions and Audio Recording. It's a big mouthful. So Supar, and that's in my basement, but we put lots of money down there.
Yeah.
We do that, podcast stuff. We haven't done video podcasts because we don't have this snazzy studio here, but we're doing a lot of audio stuff, recording bands. I like to produce, so I like to bring people in. And what's really cool is when you can take all the things you do and you kind of can mend them together. So like people come in and I'll be listening. I'll be like, they're playing, and I'm like, "Hey, you're having trouble with that right hand piano part because you got this thing going on in your arm." And I come in and I'm like, "Can I do a stretch on you?" And they're like, if they don't know about the other part.
Yeah.
The best was this one guy came in and he couldn't move his right arm. He'd been in like a couple really bad car wrecks when he was 15. He was 50 when he came in, and he had really big hearing aids, and his arm wasn't moving in time. His brain sent the signal late, and he couldn't hear. And fortunately, the guy that came in with him was somebody that I knew who I did stuff in the studio with, and he was his personal coach. And I was like, I heard him in the booth, and he was singing off key, and I was like, "Hey, man, can I come in there for a second?" And he was like, "Hey, you can trust him, man." He's like, "Can I stretch your neck?" And he was like, he's been in bad wrecks.
Yeah.
Been in really bad wrecks.
Nervous.
And so we went up to him and I said, "All right, just relax." And I moved his neck. It took about 5 seconds. I went pop, pop, pop. And he lined up, and then he was like, "Holy crap, I can hear." And
Wow.
by the end of that session, I was like, "Just so you know, I'm looking at your arm," because he was doing this. He was doing this to raise his arm to shake hands because his right arm wouldn't go. I said, "Just so you know, I can see how those nerves are working, and you could work it better." And then within like a month, he came and see me, the other side, came and saw me. And then he was like, "I drank my first beer with my right arm. I put staples in my studio with my right arm. I caught a cup out of the air with my right arm." So yeah, it's really cool when you can blend those things together,
Wow. Man.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. It makes you feel good about what you do,
What Alex can really do is, because I've recorded in the studio, is he can help you extract the absolute maximum take possible, with combining all of these and just the process in general. So,
well, yeah. I mean, that's what I mean by producing. A lot of people say producing, we're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to add some cymbals back there, and like, put some reverb on that." I'm like, yeah, we do that. But I'm like, You know, if you take a bigger breath right here and hold it for 3 seconds and then do the take, you're going to do a better take. Or, hey, you know, you're crimping the body like this. Let's stretch you out a little bit. Let's get you straight. Or, you know, do you know what vibrato is? You know, you're holding your voice tight. You know, there's that, not to call names, but I'm going to call names. You know Evanescence, that singer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, ah, you know, and there's no vibrato to her voice, so she like really straining her vocal cords. And there's a lot of people do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you can get somebody like that, like the girl that's singing in my band now, she came to me originally and tried out. And I was like, I can tell what your voice can be. And that's how we got her there. And she had no vibrato, and now she sings with it. And it's amazing, you know?
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique producer aspect that
Yeah.
I've never seen anywhere else. So
That's blowing my mind.
Yeah, man, you need to come down. I heard you got some skills.
Yeah. I mean, nowhere near as Jonathan, but I can definitely jam.
Well, if you've got a sixth of Jonathan's skills, then you can jam.
Then we can jam.
John's a badass. Yeah. No.
I try.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I wonder what the cost would be for like a band, right? Pure Intruders to come in, or like a full band to come in and do like a full mental, physical assessment and then go into a session. Like, what a cool combination of like services.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that, because there was this guy who came in my studio. He did a bunch of recording and he paid for it. He didn't use any of the tracks we cut, but he asked me, he said, could you go with, because he had another studio he'd like better, you know, because the guy that was doing that, like, he's not doing 5 different things. He's doing that, you know, and he had, you know, a bunch of extra plugins. He liked it when the guy made extra vocal sounds and things. I'm like, well, I can do that, but it's just going to be different. And he said, can you come with me to the studio and help get those sounds out? Because he had all these lines. He couldn't breathe enough to get his lines out with it and make them sound good. And I taught him some like Qigong stuff. And I taught him some deep breathing stuff. And then he was getting all them out. And he's like, man, I've never sung that good before. And he's been playing out live for years.
Wow.
So, yeah, man. Yeah. I'd be down for that, you know?
All right.
Although it's Beth, right, who sings?
Madeline.
Madeline. Oh, I don't know why I've thrown that around. It's Madeline, yes. Madeline has an amazing voice.
Oh,
Yes.
But I would be really interested to see what it would sound like if I could get in there with her and like push her through a session like that. That would be really, really, really cool. Of course,
It's gotta happen.
you know, I ain't pushing nothing. I just like,
I know,
I like, you know, the greatest thing is to work with really talented people who just have like these couple things holding them back. You know, that's the best thing as a producer. As a recording, you know, engineer, I mean, whatever, man. We're pressing buttons. Is that a good volume? Yeah. Do you like the sound of it? Yeah. Okay. You know, who cares? But like as a producer, and if you do that on the recording side, and if you do that on the, you know, doing the overtakes and stuff like that, or when like, hey, you know, this song's really hitting, but there's this spot right here, and you have such a great voice. You should diva this up a little bit. You know, put in little parts. You know, think about somebody like, I'm going to go way back. I'm going to date myself. Like Annie Lennox. Like she has like 1,000 of those in every one of her songs, but it's her. I mean, and you hear it and it makes it better. So having somebody with a lot of talent and bringing them in and squeezing that juice out, and they're always super thankful. They're like, holy crap, I didn't know I could do that.
Yep.
You know, I love it. I love it.
That could be, you know, I don't know. You could definitely just do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I would probably get bored if I only did one thing.
I know.
Yeah, so you asked that. I've got the Supar, and then now, of course, you know Alex. You guys both know Alex, another
Yep.
Alex, a friend of ours who does sound healing, and I helped mentor him in the start of his career. Now he's doing amazing, and
Yeah.
nobody takes credit for what Alex. Alex is Alex. He's a
Yeah.
charismatic bulldog, man. He just
Yeah.
everybody loves him. But he and I started a little thing called Emerge Sound Healing, and he just passed that off to me. So now I've got another business where I'm going to just do the sound healings in the recording studio. We got a few of those out, but and then I'm also doing personal training under the guise of Full Compass, and I've been doing a lot of mentoring with other people. And I'm about to bring on this young lady who just got her neurobiology PhD, and we're talking about starting a bunch of things, and may even start a 501c3 as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so hands full. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, hands full.
Well, thanks for coming today.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Seriously, yeah. Well, let's hit a couple more of the questions.
Yeah.
Go back to the fun stuff.
Let's do it.
Revenue.
Yeah, revenue. How
Bring
much
it.
revenue did you earn last year?
You know, I'm just going to say, because it comes in from so many places and it goes out so many places,
Yeah.
we'll say it was up over 6, and I spent maybe 30 back on the studio. So like in the end, I probably, like suburban family, but I'm putting it toward the things. That's the thing. You got to reinvest it back, and putting it back into my house and like, stuff like that makes it worth it. Yeah.
You mean like building a podcast studio?
Talking about
Brian knows.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's a beautiful, painful. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Growing pains.
We've got the toys, so now we got to use them.
Yeah,
Turn it into something.
That's right. You light the own fire under your butt, right?
Mm.
You light your own fire, and if you do a good job and you follow through.
Brian's great at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where he thrives, I think.
Yeah. I'm very similar to you in that a couple of things I've learned in life. Number one, I'm a sprinter, not a marathon runner. So when it's time for me to run, I run.
Mm-hmm.
And I run a lot. And when it's time for me to not run, I do not run. And instead of trying to level myself out, like I remember reading early on, like, top CEOs get up at 4 a.m. every day. And I tried to duplicate that, but it took me a lot of years to learn that, just to kind of get into whatever my cycle is. And when I'm running, I'm very productive. I'll do a year's worth of work in 3 months compared to most people. And then I don't feel guilty when I'm not in a run state, when I just want to go home and veg out and watch Netflix. I don't feel guilty about it.
No, man. And you shouldn't. Yeah.
So
finding your rhythm is super important. We talk about that with people all the time. I get a lot of people who come in who have a lot of PTSD, into into both studios, but like into the Folk Compass studio. Because artists sometimes,
music, yes.
It's sometimes a little torture. We've got our pain. We make it real. We make it out loud. But there's so many people and they don't know about their rhythm. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's work, or maybe it's like eating, or maybe it's like taking care of themselves in some other way. But I'm super glad, and that's power to you, man, because finding your rhythm is really, really important. Yeah.
I tortured myself for a while before then.
Yeah.
Out of shame and guilt, but
I think that's,
your eyebrows say that, man.
I think that's one of the big problem with all these stupid websites that are like top 10 CEOs do it, or these people do this, or top 10 productive. I mean, it's like,
and how many of those guys are like in their bathroom at like 5 a.m. just trying to think like, do I go into this meeting or do I slit my wrists?
Yeah.
Because they're. Do you know who is it? It was Ryan Reynolds or somebody else was talking about all these top actors all have severe anxiety disorders.
Yeah.
Because they have to be on so hard, so much of the time. You have to put on this face. Imagine being a CEO of a CFO, CEO of a big corporation. That's a face. It's a face in the office. It's the face with the boardroom. It's a face with the public.
PR,
How do you even know who you are?
What a good question. When you have to be so much to everyone else, how do you even know who you are?
That's why the faces we're trying to be are our own for the businesses.
That's right.
It's like, let's start businesses where we only
it's
are
us.
ourselves.
It's our tone, our demeanor, and like our personalities, and people will be attracted to that.
That's exactly right. Nobody's attractive to everybody. It's a misnomer to imagine that you can be attractive to everybody, but there are always going to be the people that get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're adaptive and open and willing to take in things enough that it's a broad audience and it's not an echo chamber.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're really good, I think that's what you do. But I think you guys have got something here.
That's good. That's good.
As long as we have an amazing guest, like
That's
Alex
true.
Stadler.
Yeah. Well, I believe in you.
Oh, man. All right. So we're going to hit just a quick, who's your target customer? What problem do they have? And what solution do you provide for them? And since you're doing a lot of things, let's focus on, unless you want to go a different direction, but we can focus on the massage business, even though your ecosystem overlaps quite a bit. But yeah, who's your target customer as a, it feels, there's nothing wrong with being a massage therapist, but it feels like there's a title for you that's different than that. Like, what are you?
We more often use like body worker. I will be careful though, because I'm going to be real here. Like I said, not talk about politics and civil shit so much, but I will say within the massage thing. So in other states, massage therapists are under the Board of Health, and in this state, they're under the Secretary of State.
Interesting.
So yeah, the Attorney General actually has a little more about it. So there were a bunch of guys who did myofascial release. Like there's a group. I'm not going to name the groups because that would be, I think, not as ethical as I want to be. But some groups were saying, well, we're better, and they do a lot of very similar things that I do. And they said, we're this. And so, the board, SOS, went to the Attorney General and said, well, they say they're not massage therapists. So now And I think it's getting better. But for a while, there's this, you can't take these courses and get CE credits. We have to have 24 credits. And you can't take them from these guys anymore because they're not massage therapists. They say they're not massage therapists. I'm like, you guys just totally screwed us. And it's some of the best work you can do.
Yeah.
So, back to the question.
Body worker?
Because I think that's important. I would say, if people ask me, well, what do you do? And of course I name 10 things, but if I'm talking about a full compass massage, say, well, we're a kinesiologically postural-based therapeutic body working program.
I need an acronym.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's say it again one more time.
A kinesiological
Is that C?
posture is K.
Okay, of course.
Posture-based
KP.
posture-based bodywork program.
B. KPB. That sounds pretty dope.
Yeah.
All right, Alex KPB. So
It's like a radio station.
As it
Alex
really is.
KPB.
Welcome to Alex KBB, where we fix your shit.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so for as a KPB, who is your target customer?
Okay, so it is more broad in some ways and more narrow in some ways. We want people who actually really want to get better and who are willing to do the work to get better.
Okay.
We want people who are open and who are ready to have conversations about their wellness. So that may sound like that's like everybody, and it's really not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
can
doesn't
see
surprise
that.
me.
Yeah, we talk.
I don't even know if it's me sometimes, so I can relate.
I hear you. Well, you still hold yourself to a really high standard, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be careful. You talked about bringing out the stuff into the open, right? I might do it for your bro here.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Always.
So if you feel like you're having to hold, if you feel like you have to be hyper ready, and you feel like the only time you have is when you're disconnected, that you're being well, then sometimes that's a connection with your other connections might not be as well as you want them to be, and being able to face those things. So I talk about it like this: project management. So we help people get their place better. It doesn't mean like right when you get up on the table, although a lot of times, crap. Sometimes we're dizzy. I tell people like, take a minute sitting up. We
You're
just knocked
basically
a
a new
lot of stuff
person.
around.
Don't run to the car.
Right. So sometimes we have those kind of feelings, but it's really more about getting in touch with that. And so we talk about the project management, like, so if you want to I'm going to build this podcast business, right? So you're like, here's the problem or goal. You can say it either way, right? If you're trying to fix something or if you're trying to make something, it's still just problem or goal. So our goal is this. And then here's the goal. Here's how we're going to get to the goal. And you have check-ins and all this. But when it's a person, when it's something with them, then all these other steps get in there. Like I'm acknowledging there's a problem.
Wow.
I'm accepting there's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm wanting that to change. I'm willing for that to change. I'm ready for that to change. Okay. So when we're talking about my ideal clients, you hear me, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm digging this. We're going to have to repeat that for everyone listening to this podcast. That is so good.
I heard that last piece. So between those last three pieces are usually people that come in. They've at least acknowledged there's a problem. And sometimes that's because they're in active pain. But like I said, it's funny. They'll come in with one thing, and then I'm like, well, when your top thing is here, you don't feel this. And then this goes away, and they're like, why is my foot hurting? We didn't even work on my foot. I'm like, your foot already was hurting. You just couldn't tell. And then we go to the next thing, and they're like, oh, my back and oh, my stomach. And they don't know. So they have to be in that last little piece there. There are people who've come in and they weren't there. And what happens is, and it's really funny because it always happens, is they'll come in, they'll be like, oh, that's so much better, thanks. And I'm like, you have a lot of other things going on. And it's up to you whether you want to come back in. But I'm going to recommend, as a professional that does this and who knows bodies very well, I'm going to recommend that you do. Here's the recommended time, and here's the next time. You're optimally going to be able to take advantage of what we just did. And then here's if you go any further, you're probably not going to keep any of the benefits. And they'll be like, yeah, or maybe they'll book it and then they'll cancel it. And then about a year and a half later, they'll come back and they're like, so I'm actually ready to work on this now. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, did it last about a couple, 3 weeks? And they're like, yeah, it lasted about a couple, 3 weeks. I'm like, yeah.
But it took them 9 months to admit it.
Well, right, because that's the thing. They weren't to those later stages there.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come in and they work with me for a year before they ever. I've got one guy. I love him. I work on their whole family. I'm definitely not saying their name. That's illegal, actually. I'm not saying
Good
their
for
name.
you to hold back.
Yeah, but But I work with him, and it's just been in this last year, but I've been working with him for like 6 years that he's been willing to, like about a year and a half, he's been willing to, and now he's like actually taking the steps more on his own. Like I was going out of my way. In fact, the personal training thing came up in part because of that person, because I love them and I love their family, and I'm like, this guy can't fall down, so we did that. But like now they're taking it really for themselves and taking it forward. So yeah, as long as they're in that place, they have to at least have recognized it and want it to change. If you're not to that point, so that's there. But it does fold over into the other stuff.
Yeah,
No doubt.
I tell people like I put a 2-month booking window out on my studio, and I say, well, here's the thing. You might think that's a little ways out, and you might think you're ready. So now go and actually practice enough that you are ready. Because if you come in and you're not, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. You're not really wasting my time because I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
But you should feel confident when you come in. And then when you're already confident, then when somebody has some suggestions to make it a little better, like John explained this earlier, like when you have that and you're ready and you can hear it. If you're not ready, you can't hear it and you're held back. It's not going to happen for you, not the way you want it to.
Yeah, it's quick little story, nothing crazy. But when we came in and recorded, it was guitar, and there was one part where it was like, all right, I want to do a little instrumental solo, nothing crazy, but I didn't know what we were even going to play. I was like, Alex, I have no idea what I'm playing here, because we were going to change it. But at the same time, I was like, all right, well, I'm with Alex, so we'll figure it out. Like you just, you just kind of, you're ready, and as long as you're open, it just happens. And then we worked through it, and it was perfect.
I love that. I love that. You know what you're talking about there, and I love this, and I think you could hear this too. Not in a bad way. I mean, you can hear it as in you can hear me, and I think also you will hear it.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is holding space, right? You feel confident and safe because that person has made space for you, and they're ready to be with you completely in that moment. That's probably the thing that I do the most of. If I'm doing a sound healing, I'm doing that, and I'm considering everyone who's going to listen, and I'm going to make sure that I'm in the place to be able to do that. You got to take care of yourself before you can do anything to give. And there's that caretaker and caregiver notion. You guys know about that?
Yeah.
Caretaker tries to take on all the pains of everybody else. Caregiver takes care of themselves and then gives what they have. If you follow that paradigm, if you do that, and then you can really be in that space, then you can do amazing things. You're not holding yourself back anymore. So,
Okay, we got to take a breath on that one. All right. Caretaker, caregiver. That is an insane principle. So
That's a whole episode.
Thought I was familiar with that, but the way you described it, I obviously wasn't. Okay, cool. So if we think about in the context of founders, right, entrepreneurs, so you're an interesting story because you're the entrepreneur and you're the person actually doing the body work. But if we think about what you just said, right, like an entrepreneur typically sees a problem, they want to solve that problem, they want to solve that problem for a person or people, right? So again, but you meet a lot of entrepreneurs and they're extremely stressed, they're overworked, they're overwhelmed, they attribute it to being underfunded, underskilled, underemployed, all these types of things. But to your point, I think that principle as entrepreneurs, am I a caretaker? Am I trying to just take on all this from the customers, or am I a caregiver? Am I building something that's amazing, that's incredible, that solves a problem, and then giving that to the world? What an interesting perspective.
You're talking about a bunch of different things in there, though. So, for one, what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a creator. They are a visionary, and they create. And a lot of entrepreneurs, including someone I've mentioned, are really good at creating this idea, having this amazing vision, and seeing the path. And yet they are not a manager, and they're not the person that's the worker, and they're not this thing, that needs to be the person moving it actually functionally forward. They can do it for a while, and then they burn. And the reason why is because that's not where their juice is. Their juice is in seeing that thing. So I think that's really important to consider. And I think the thing where you get the power from that is when you connect. So the other piece is, we're all doing the same thing. You guys doing it through your podcast here, me through the businesses that I have. We talked about Alex Blue is doing. The reason why that works so well and why we're all here in the first place is because what we're really doing is working on connection.
Yeah.
We're talking about connecting. You guys are trying to connect people to the audience that need to hear it. I'm helping people connect to themselves in order to connect better to other people. Alex is getting people to connect with where they are and how to get to the place they want to be within themselves. So we're all working on that from different angles, right?
Yeah, that's good.
When you say it like that, now it's almost like a whole. We got to start looking at how are we connecting better, or how can we connect better?
If you guys want to do like a separate other thing at some point about any of these concepts, like I can easily go for like 6 hours on any of them.
We should do that.
I'm totally down.
I'll just set it up and sit here and let you talk.
No, we need to have everybody in on it.
No, I know. Yeah, it's funny. I actually wanted to bring this part up for someone who's providing, health more or less for people.
Yeah.
Because then when you start talking about, well, how do we make more money? Because if you want, you either have to hire people, train them, or charge more, or work more. So it's like, how many options do you have for the massage side?
Well, there's a lot.
But like, you don't want to charge someone $500 an hour
because
you want to help them, even if it is worth it. Technically, depending on the person.
So there's a lot of ways to get at that. And this is the thing, obviously, I've had to deal with as well. Because I think when I started out, I was charging something like $60 an hour, which as a massage therapist, listen, functionally speaking, like a lot of people do a lot of work. If you work at a desk, most people can hang out there from anywhere from 6 to 12 hours in a day. And it sucks. It's not good. It's not good for you. But you can do it because it's low energy. And doing physical body work is not like that. No. So if we do more than 30 hours a week, we're breaking down. I try to keep it between 20 and 25.
No joke.
And I include that in my setup and takedown because, I do like these long postural analysis at the beginning and give exercises and stretches for people at the end, which is also not a lot of what people do in body work and should. I recommend it. And I will talk to you about how to do that if you ever would like to learn about that. If you're listening to this podcast and you do that and you want to be like, how can I be a Bell massage? Come talk to me. Because I do train people as well. But, we've got to be able to take care of ourselves in that specific way, So
you said the question of increasing revenue, but different ways to get there. No, that's good. But so you got a threshold of pricing, but you said you started at 60. I would assume you're not at 60 anymore.
I was killing myself. No, and basically probably by the time this is coming, it's going to be $125 an hour. I also, so here's the thing that I think is really important too. If you have people working under you, because that is one way. One way, the most important way, is to have an idea of what the market prices is. If you're coming out and you're new, you want to know what the market price is, because if you over or undersell yourself, you actually can hurt yourself. I had a guy, the personal coach guy that I mentioned earlier. He was a really good coach because he cared the crap out of everybody he worked with. And he was like so emphatic and putting all his energy in, and he was not charging enough.
Yeah.
And I finally said, listen, man, who do you want to go to? What's the price range of the people you want to go to for what you want? Because you are a professional, you get paid to do this. And he said, well, about this range. And I said, and look at your price and think about how everybody else who's looking for somebody looks at that price and says, well, I'm not going to go to this guy. He doesn't have any confidence. This guy doesn't believe in himself.
100%.
So you need to look at that and say, am I worth this? If the answer is no, what do you do to get there? If your answer is yes and some, then you need to put that in there. And the other piece is, and this was a great, bless his soul, this guy who was a hypnotherapist work with, he actually did some really amazing stuff for me, transcendent stuff for me, because I actually had a fear. You said earlier, we'll talk about your problems too. I actually had a fear of success. And I had it because it was an association of upper class from places that I've lived and the people I met that were from that. Now, I know some people now who are uber rich and they're really good people and do good things. But at that point in my life, I hadn't. And he did some work with me. And he said to me later when we were talking about business and making money, he said, set your price where you need it to be. And basically what he meant there was where you meet your confidence, I am valued this. And then work with who you want to work with. So what I do in my business is I have my price and then I have my community price. And the community are the people you absolutely know you connect with the best. And that is the minimum price you can work and feel confident and make all your living and do all the things you need to do. So let's take it even further back. What do you want to do? Okay, define that as clearly as you can. What is it that you want to do as a whole goal? Now figure out how to take that and make money from it. If you go the other way, you're always suffering.
Yeah.
You're always suffering. And you guys are an example of this in this moment, right? And hopefully I am a good person. I hope I help attract people to your things because I believe in the way you're doing it because it is the correct way to do it to be healthy for yourself. So yeah. So you set those things. So we have a community program. So for me, and I might have to change this, but right now, because you change, And you should update yourself, right? To change.
That's good. That's
So-
good.
so-
Nugget.
Yeah. So my community is musicians. So when John comes, he's a musician. He gets a discount. He gets a little bit less of a price because functionally speaking, this is why. It should not be another way. It's not because you want to bring in people who you think are going to come more often. It's because you know they will come more often, and it's easier for you to work with them because you know you will align easier. So I play music, he plays music. We're going to have an easy time. We're going to be able to connect. I do it for educators and teachers because I teach, and I am constantly also a student. And man, students have a hard time in this country. It's not like other places, where you go to Germany, you go to college. Okay, you're going to pay for books and where you live and stuff, but like you're going to go to school. You're going to be able to do it. Everyone's going to be able to do it. That is not the case here, And a lot of kids are also screwed up about like college versus trade school. Whole other episode, whole other
Yes.
series.
Yes.
Whole other series. But you can do it there. So there's a lot more struggle. So I do that because I care. And you know what? They're super thankful for that and receptive, and they can come, and they wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And I do one for veterans, and it's because I have a bunch in my family, and I include like emergency service workers and people in police and things like that because that is an extremely stressful job.
Yeah.
And if those people walk around and are not healthy, that is dangerous for everyone.
Ooh, that's a good point.
So that's a big piece. But I encourage everybody who comes in to work
Yeah.
under me. Now, here's the other way to get money, right? It was a really, really functional person who was given this. In fact, a woman came to me and she asked, "Can we take some pictures while we're in there?" And I was like, okay, I was working with a chiropractor, and I said, Dr. Kate comes in and like takes some pictures of me working on her. And I'm like, what is this for? And they had them blown up into big posters, and she went to this convention. It was a success convention for people who were entrepreneurs, And if you guys want to know, I'll look all that stuff up later and send it to you. But one of the things she shared with me from that was, she said, once you are successful, the first thing you do is recreate yourself. Recreate yourself. And then you let them take over some of those responsibilities, and then they start doing that. And it sounds kind of pyramid-y, but it really is. If you're really good at something, if you have a really great talent, if you really understand business, if you don't do it, then you're not really being a citizen. You're not really contributing to your society. You're not giving back to the rest of the world in the way that really a socially responsible person would. But also it's very lucrative.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where you put the time in on the front end and then you constantly get stuff on the back end. We were talking about my emerged sound healing stuff. Got songs up there, they play thousands of times. I only recorded them once.
Yes. Yes.
I only trained a person once. We trained forever, but
Yes.
because it's a relationship. So those parts, those are things. But you should always be ready to increase your price. You need to recognize, I do martial arts as well, and I'll probably be winding up as a martial arts teacher at some point as well. I'm almost halfway through that. I started doing martial arts at 45, but you know what? I jumped just as high as those 20-year-olds.
But I'm sure you connected with it pretty quick because you deal with
did.
bodies and you can see the movements.
You know what's really funny is that the guy who teaches the class, not the guy who owns the place, he's about 80, and you don't pick a fight with that guy. He's like 9th degree black belt. By the way, you only get 10th degree black belt when you die, and everyone says, yes, he was 10th degree. Isn't that interesting?
know that.
Wow, I did not know that.
At least in the practice that they work in. And he does mixed stuff. He made his own style. But the other guy who actually teaches the class, and I wanted him because I brought my kids in. And so now, I'm like yesterday, somebody came in, and sometimes now I'm to the place where I can warm them up. And I basically ran 90% of the class, and I was like, okay, I'm doing this. But then my kids are there, and it's to show them. But that guy is also a myofascial therapist. And he came up, and I came up kind of I learned my own way, and he came up through under a doctor. So, and I got a massage session from him once because I had something happen, and he was $160 an hour. And at the time, I was 100. And I was like, is this so very different from what I'm doing? When you find that moment, you have to say, no, I'm worth more than this. I had a client conversation the other day, and I was like, listen, man, you and I know, both of us know that I could be charging $225 an hour and still be getting tips, and I would be full. And they're like, yeah. So also, here's an important question. Who do you want to work with?
Exactly. That's the exact point I was going to bring up next.
Yeah.
Because let's say in this, alternate scenario here where you're in LA or some city like that, and you're charging $800 an hour.
Yeah.
And you're working with these people, though, that you can't stand. How is that going to make you feel physically and emotionally?
Yeah.
Horrible.
Well,
And it's like, is the money worth it at that point?
Right.
So that's the extreme end of the spectrum.
So I'm going to say this. It came up and it didn't seem the right time. The other thing that you were talking about in that longer piece when you were kind of getting contemplative about that. So I'm going to say this, and it's okay if you disagree. Okay. I have a big thing that I like to say. It's like, it's okay as we disagree as long as we agree to love each other. Be kind, be, socially respectful. That's okay to disagree. But I do not believe you can ever be angry at someone else. I do not believe you can ever truly be angry or even really, truly upset with another person.
You're upset with yourself.
Yep. In every situation.
Hold on.
Take it, man. Come on.
No. I love this. We went from setting your price,
Yeah.
right, from a business standpoint. And then one thing that you said that I absolutely love is you constantly evolve when it comes to pricing and things like that because you change.
Right.
So as you change, right, you approach how you serve your customers. And I think everything you just said is like if someone's a service-based solopreneur or a small company, like they should listen to everything you just said for the last 5 minutes, probably 5 times, just to let that stuff sink in. Okay, so that was recap of all the incredible brilliantness there. So, okay, so let's go back to this, what you just said, because I like this.
Okay.
You're never, ever mad at anyone else.
It's only yourself.
Right. So here's one of the things that
hold on.
Go ahead. Come on.
So you said you may disagree. So I agree with that sentiment. So, but thinking through like, how does that function
the
when
logistics.
you're sexually abused? Right. There's still some drama. You work through that, and you still, why did I let myself be in that situation? Right. You still blame yourself, and there's still some really deep, just terrible things that you tell yourself, but that anger towards that experience and that person, like, how is that not being angry at them?
So this is a really, really great question, and it's actually insanely relevant because I have quite a few people who have been through some extreme traumas. I mean, and sometimes, and this is also really important. We're going to talk about trauma here, so I want to make this point. Whether you have a PTSD, or a T, it doesn't matter if it's this big or if it's as big as this whole building. It's yours, and you own it, and you should never, ever feel bad. I don't mean I'm telling you how to feel. I'm meaning that there should never be a situation in which you are made or within yourself in which you feel bad about that trauma, and you should never compare it to anyone else. That is super, super important. But I'm going to tell you, and this is a part of the answer of that, people who have been sexually traumatized, it's actually easier for them to forgive the other person than it is themselves.
Wow.
So think about that. Because ultimately, someone who traumatizes someone else in that way, a bully. So what is a bully? A bully is a coward. A bully is a coward who does not like some part of themselves, who probably at some point has been bullied themselves or perceived. So I had a thing with my daughter, and she was having this situation where she perceived herself as being bullied. And really, there was some light teasing going on in the class, but it was nothing outside of what anybody else has. The problem was she was holding all her feelings and then coming home and exploding. And we had this conversation. I said, so we asked this question, why are they bullying you? Okay. And it's like, well, because they're jerks. I'm like, no. Like, you can't define. We also had this conversation about, is there a good person or a bad person? There's only people who make bad decisions. The closest thing we have a bad person is someone who's made so many bad decisions, they themselves believe that they are bad. And outside of sociopathy, which is a disease, that is the closest thing to evil we have, are people who believe that they can't make other decisions. That's a real problem. I said, so why are they picking on you? And eventually we got to, because you react. You attract it by not being confident. I said, now why are they picking on you? And immediately, she didn't have to think about it. Well, because somebody probably did it to them. Right? So that's the sickness, is it gets passed. That's familial pain, or that's community pain.
Hold on, something you just did. It was so quick, but it was so powerful. So the first question was, why are they picking on you? And then the second question is, why are they picking on you?
Yeah,
right?
the emphasis is very important.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
She is 10. She'll be 11 this year. Yeah.
How many people do you think are having these conversations that deep with their kids?
I know.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny? I was in the grocery store the other day, and I'm just talking about the foods we eat. Because honestly, we go to a grocery store, we only buy like less than 8% of the stuff from the grocery store.
No
because
doubt.
so much of it is so processed and has so much crap in it. And I am a super label reader, and I actually know what a lot of the chemicals and things on there are. But like we were talking, and these people kept coming up to me, like 5 people in one grocery store on one trip that was less than 30 minutes. I came up and said, "You are doing the best. You are doing amazing with these kids." And I'm like, "Thank you. We try. We do our best." And it kept happening. I think I only got 3 aisles, and it kept happening. I'm like, and then you pause for a second, like, wait, how the crap are other people? How are other people raising their children? And you're like, boy, we really need to. So I'm glad we're getting to have this conversation. But I don't want to lose that piece because you had a really great question, and I do aside a little bit about things, but because there's so much to be learned even in just that one question. So it's hard for them to let go and to heal themselves. Ultimately, you get to a point, you start doing a lot of therapy, and it might be a bunch of different things. Maybe you're going to a psychotherapist and a psychiatrist, and you take drugs, and you're in a group, and you're all these things, and then your bartender, your hair cutter, your massage therapist, everybody, they all hear it, and they all talk to you, and they all have their thoughts. But eventually you get to the point where you understand that person was sick.
Yeah.
And once you understand that someone who does something terrible is sick, and that they have a disease, and I don't mean sick like I'm judging you, I mean sick like, let's talk about it logically. You have a problem. If you think it's okay to do this to another person, societally speaking, no one is going to accept that. Not really. There are going to be echo chambers of people who throw hate. And let's just say that's a learned thing. Mm-hmm. That is a learned thing. And it is a learned, communicable disease. Hate. All right? Hate is a communicable disease.
I think that,
go ahead, man.
I was going to say, this is what helped me just not worry about just random shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I worry about other people in general if it's negative? Because they're just dealing with their own thing. It's like, it's their problem. It's not my problem, actually.
It's not your problem. It really isn't your problem. And you don't have to own it, and you don't have to accept their energy. Because there's that transfer, man. Someone's, hey, as soon as they start going there, they're passing that to you.
Yeah.
So like, let's take it to a smaller example. But I also want to say, why would you worry about anything? Because all obstacles are opportunities. Okay. Why would you worry about anything? Because everything is an opportunity. Let's take it to like a car, and you're driving, and someone around you, and they go through the red light, and you're like, I had someone almost kill us once that way. They smashed our car and then drove off, and this other guy saw them and tried to stop them. And he said, I stopped chasing them because they were going to kill somebody. The cop's like, oh, well, man, that's that cop, not all cops. Police officers, bless you. Thank you for what you do. But like in that moment, you could be like, really like, oh, and you have that feeling, okay, what's going on with them?
Yeah.
You have no idea. They may be really sick. They may be off their meds. There's a guy in our neighborhood that I used to live in. He went up to the school where I lived, like while we lived there. We used to walk by his house. He went off his meds. He showed up there with a military rifle and was like, fortunately somebody talked him down because he was just off his meds, but he could have killed a bunch of kids. You have no idea what's going on. The thing that got upset, and this is where we're going to go, the thing that got upset is your attachment to it going a certain way.
Exactly. Expectations.
If you hold on to, and this is going to start sounding a little Buddhist, and I don't have a religious piece. I have a lot of spiritual beliefs, but I don't believe in dogmatic because that's politics in religion, which is even worse than either one by themselves, potentially. So, right. But your attachment is actually the thing that is going to make you upset.
Yeah.
So the 2 problems people have in communication, here we are trying to connect people, right? You guys are doing it here, I'm doing it there, we're doing it together right now. Yeah, synergistic, man. I'm going to throw some corporate words out. But we're trying to do it together. But that attachment is the thing that makes you upset. If you hold your attachments more lightly, then you find you don't get upset. Our personalities on top, those are facades. We have created them. We told ourselves, I'm like this. I like blue. I eat pickles in the afternoon. When people say this, I do this.
How did you know?
Right. So, but you can sink deeper into yourself and just recognize we're a being going through this experience of life. Time is a thing we've essentially created in order to be able to do that. I could really, really go. But we're going through this experience, and it's really the experience is the point. It's the 42. It's the answer. The experience is the point. And you can make that experience whatever you want it to be, right, just based on the way that you look at that. So let's go all the way back to that person who's been sexually traumatized in a terrible way. You could say they've been beaten, they've almost been killed, they've been raped, they had to carry their dad's baby, all these things. And ultimately, it's harder for them to forgive because they think it's their fault. And that's the sickness. And maybe, and I want to say, anyone who hears this and they've been through that, I hear you. I will hear you if you want to say it. And if you want to be angry, you can say anything you want to me. I will hear you. If you want to say, I am angry at that person, you can say that. You speak your truth. I'm speaking my truth, and it's okay if our truths are different. We can agree to disagree as long as we agree to live with each other. Okay? And I've also been traumatized a number of different ways about a number of different things. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people who've had it come and seek me, and they hear from someone else. And sometimes they don't even tell them that they do that. They just can tell. You can tell. When you're traumatized, it creates a kind of a, it's almost like, it's not quite a superpower. I want to say because trauma doesn't create superpowers, but it can feel like it, and it can feel like a burden too. So why can I connect to people so well? I created this whole way of working on bodies called deep listening, and it's all about us connecting to their bodies. I do not have a plan when I go in there. And yet, when people come, I know what color I should put on the table because I have different colored sheets. I know where the lights should be set. I know how high the head thing should be, before they come in, because I'm connecting to them. When we come in, I ask their body. I'll be talking to them about something else. I'll shake them, I'll touch them. I'll ask their body where to go. It tells me what to do. That's connection. That's listening, right? We can all do that. We can all be there. But I think people come because they get that. They get that I'm going to hold space for them because I needed that space held for me. Why do healers go into healing? You guys may not think about this as being healing, but you damn well know it is, right? Like, it might not have been what you came into it for, but you're connecting people and entrepreneurs with people that can help them get better at that, can help them grow. That's healing. I had a really cool lady. She had all these problems. I will say, I actually could not help her actual problem because her problem was something unrelated. We helped her with other things and maybe just to have a safe space for a minute. But she had problems, and she said, well, I'm going to be a healer. And I said, what are you going to do? And she said, I want to be the person in the museum who picks how they set up all the art. And I was like, that is amazing. And she's coming from a healing perspective to do it. She wants to set the art up in a way that makes people feel something and to make them heal. I was like, man, that's amazing. So you can be there. Yeah. So I don't know if we can qualify all the way to the nth level of, how can that person not be? But in essence, they're mad a lot of the times with themselves. And we feel that mad and we put it there, but we have that mad and it's ours. Yeah. Like, there's a really great saying, I like to throw it out there. There's a lot of things, whether you can or whether you can't, you're right. Like, I love throwing those truisms out because there's always a kernel, at least, of truth at that. But hanging on to hate is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah, I've heard that one. It's great.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And why is it so true? Why does it feel so true? Because you recognize if you have that feeling, it's yours. It does not matter what anybody else did, So
they've already moved on half the time.
Forgive them and then forgive you. If you need help with that, there are a lot of people willing to help you get there. They're good people. So I hope people consider me one of them. I hope they do,
I feel like I should just hold the mic back here.
Take care of yourself.
From
man.
a setup standpoint.
Yeah. We need to get you one of these guys right here.
I know. It should come anyway.
Yeah, man.
For those listening to the podcast, they won't get any of that. Position it on the table with the microphone. Okay, cool. So, wow.
We just had a lot of things. Maybe.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to this episode. Okay. So let's go to. All right. So after hearing you talk, someone might believe that you're perfect and that you got all this shit figured out and you have a routine in which they could never accomplish because you seem very elevated, very smart, very kind, and very intelligent. So let's talk about some of the areas of focus and areas that you struggle with.
Okay. Talk about what makes it hard for me. All right. So one thing I'll talk about is that I grew up with body dysmorphia. Okay. So
what exactly does that mean?
So body dysmorphia means that you have a negatively charged, unrealistic perception of how you look. Okay. So I was a really chunky, very pasty kid. I got made fun of. I made fun of myself because that was a self-defense mechanism. I was very chubby. I didn't eat well. I was a sensory kid. I still am a sensory person. I only wear things that are comfortable. I don't wear jeans anymore because they're uncomfortable. I have sensory kids. I have an autistic child. Mild, but people don't know about this. I may well be myself. I know that I have sensory disorder, and sensory disorder is a piece where visually, phonically, hearing orally, taste things. You have trouble with things that don't fit within certain ranges. So like I don't like seeing things like akimbo. Like clean is nice. I like clean, but organized is much better. You know, organized is very important. You get me? You get me? You might have some too. You know, like I think everybody has levels of that, but like when you have a disorder, it makes you dysfunctional. And so like I grew up and I wouldn't wear jeans. I wore weird clothes. I wouldn't eat cheese because the texture was weird for me. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't eat most vegetables because think about it, they have a really odd texture on the outside.
It's like weird,
so
Okra?
crunchy.
yeah, I eat all that stuff.
Okra
now.
is very strange.
By the way, I had some last night before karate. Actually, it was great. Oh, bendy okra, so good, so good. So had that. I had teeth that were all out of alignment, and so I couldn't get braces till I was like 30 because I also grew up pretty poor. I did live in one place in a house that was that had previously been a chicken house, you know, like, and that sounds worse than it was because it was a real house by the time we got it. But you know, I had one parent who did very well and one parent who struggled a lot, and I had two parents, and my dad just died like a week ago, and like tomorrow actually, and I wasn't close to him. And so I didn't have a close familiar percent, and he was different things than me, politically, religiously, all kinds of things. So I had a lot of different kinds of struggle. And also, no, this is probably the biggest one. Up until my 30s, I thought that I was bipolar, manic depressive, and that I might have a borderline personality disorder. And other people thought that too. And what it actually turned out to be was a deficiency in niacin, which is also B3. And so that's a big awareness piece. Like there's a lot of people out there suffering who don't know what's wrong with them. And if they go through traditional methods, they don't find it.
They don't ever find out.
Sometimes they never find it, or if they do, it's an accident. It was an accident for me. I was watching a documentary, saw this thing, and it was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You know, oh, niacin. It was AA thing. This one doctor worked with them, and he was like, oh, I'm noticing some depression. And he was like, oh, I've noticed niacin helps with that. Doctors don't do that. So pretty open guy there, you know.
Yeah,
He's
no
pretty
doubt.
new age. You know, the other doctors were like, you can't do this. You can't just tell people to take vitamins. Right, because vitamins kill so many people and medicine doesn't. So I was like, huh. And my wife had just gotten on to me. She's like, you're eating a ton of peanut butter. You're eating so much peanut butter. And I'm like, I guess I am eating 3 jars a week. That is kind of a lot, right? And
That's a pretty high quota.
that's a pretty high amount. And I was like, well, I maybe have a food addiction. And I knew a little bit about food addiction. I was like, all right, 10 to 14 days, I'll just get off it. And as I stopped eating as much, I started
didn't feel
feeling
good.
worse and worse. And I saw this, and something just went, you know, in my mind. And I looked up peanuts, and they're high in niacin. And I looked up the other foods that were high in niacin. They were all the things I craved horribly. Like we used to stab each other for bacon when I was a kid. I don't eat any red meat now, but like we used to stab each other for bacon. My mom would cook like 2 pounds of bacon, and it would be gone. You know, which maybe it means that there's more of that going on in my family than we knew about. But so I started taking niacin. I started taking the daily amount. Didn't do anything. Twice that. So you should know this about niacin. Don't just go take niacin in high quantities because there's a thing called flushing. Have you ever had that happen? Your skin turns bright red and you itch, and it's kind of awful. You itch all over. So I got to where I was taking about 10,000 plus times the daily amount.
And that's what you needed to catch up.
And I never flushed. At that time I was doing not slow release. They have slow release. And now I take slow release. I actually take between 10 and 20,000 times a day. I take like a B supplement, and I take niacin twice a day, 500 milligrams twice a day. But I will tell you what, I had tried to kill myself a number of times as a young person. Many times, actually. Several times. Different ways. Didn't succeed, obviously. And for those out there suffering, I hear you. I see you. I hear you. And it can get better. And it did. And so that was a really, really, really big struggle. So when I figured that out, and it's only been in the last 5 or 6 years that I really figured it out, like, okay, this is how much and how often and what time of day and all those things, that made a whole world of difference. It was like literally stepping into another body that functioned, you know.
And you'll never get that from modern, whatever medical system we have.
One person that was a friend of mine, they actually were the first wave person of, you know, you get a good talker. Like you get a good talker and they tell everybody, right? She was the first big talker I'd had, and she got me tons of people. And she thought she had one, and she found this one thing, this one study that they did. And it was all these people who were bipolar, They've been diagnosed legally, through a psychological doctor, psychiatrist, as bipolar, and they started trying them on ice, and they were being on like 3 or 4 medications, right? And then they slowly, as they did the niacin and the other things went away, until eventually they were just a niacin. And they're like, yeah, apparently if we just take it away after 24 to 48 hours, they start feeling those symptoms again. But as soon as you give it back, within 12 to 24 hours, they're fine. I was like, so we're starting to classify this as a niacin deficiency. It's not well known. There's not a lot of literature out there about it, but it's an existing thing, and it was me.
Well, I think, how old are you now?
I'm 46.
46. So, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs who are driven publicly, and then you hang out with them privately, and they're struggling, right, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Mental health, and I mean they're really trying to get through that. And I think everything you just said, right, like from a documentary to talker bringing up a study to experimenting year after year after year to finally getting to a place where you said I felt like I was in a new body.
Yeah.
And so, gosh, I think, and I, Jonathan encourages me because he's very disciplined and diligent around certain habits and things like that. Yeah. So, and that's really, it's funny. The FocusCast has really just become us trying different ways to increase our focus and output, our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, to accomplish the dreams that we have.
I love it. I love that. And that segues to the last thing I was going to mention, which is when you're talking about focus. So I also grew up because of the poor, right? So people who grow up really rich, people who grow up really poor, they have the same problem in reverse. People who are very tall, very short, same problem. We can't see this damn stoplight. Same problem. It's just from the opposite end of the spectrum. And what it is you don't understand what the value is of that. So I grew up with scarcity syndrome. Okay. So we never have enough, never can have enough. And there are a lot of things you can do that are like, and I still have a bunch of, like I have like 30 plus accounts, like all over the place. My money is never all in one place. I mean, that's smart too. Maybe not 30 or 50 or 100, but having them in different places. But you do a lot of things that are crutches. And they help you get to the place a little quicker, but eventually you got to let go of the crutch, right? So the piece is to start telling yourself you have enough no matter what you do, and let that piece, because money can be a great tool. And I am not the super big fan of money. I feel like I kind of want the world to work like the Orville. Yeah, no, now once we got replicators, we always had plenty of food and enough energy forever. So our currency is reputation. I'm like, that sounds great. But your currency is your reputation. And the most important person for that is you. So remember that. So when you talk about like helping people focus, okay, what's making it hard to focus?
Everything.
Get those things out of the way. Identify them. Clarify, like specifically what are the things that are in my way? What makes it hard? I have that studio. John's been down there, and I don't have this is really great for this space. I've got it set up comfortably. Yeah. I won't work in a space until I'm comfortable, and that helps me be more. So how are you supported? Are you doing what you want to do? Did you make time for this? Timing, people, get up at 4 o'clock. It's like, no. Did you make time? Is it your intention? Is it still your intention? Like, check in with yourself. Like, I said I was going to do this today. It's like, no. So one, this is a very Yoda-esque thing to say, but there's no such thing as try. What happens when someone's like, hey, I'll try to come to your party, man?
Well, it's like all the people who said, because when I used to smoke cigarettes, I'm going to try and quit. They're never going to quit. Yeah. I said, I am quitting, and I quit.
That's right, exactly.
It's just that simple.
It is.
Because if you try and quit...
Depends on the level of
depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
I knew anyone saying they were going to try and quit, I knew that was not happening.
Right.
Just because of the way they said it. Just
in case anybody is trying to quit smoking, hypnotism really works really well for that, really, really high rate of success. That guy I worked with, he did a lot of that. If you say you're going to try, you're giving yourself an out already, because in our society, let's talk about all language is just symbols, and it's all interpretive. So everything is subjective with regard to language. Hey, man, I really like you. Hey, man, I really like you. Hey, man, I just like you. Like they're the same effing words, but like all the interplay, and I could just do it with my eyes. Yeah. I could do it with my body. They're the same words. But if you say you're going to do it, here's the thing. Say you're going to do it if you have a reason that comes up, especially if you need the care or time or whatever else. Go ahead and forgive yourself immediately. That's actually the best advice I could give anybody about damn near anything. Say you're going to do it, but forgive yourself immediately. Do not beat yourself up. Do not give yourself a hard time. If you want to be very successful, then do all the things you need in order to be able to make that time for yourself. I had this great lady who I went with PowerCore. You guys know about PowerCore? It's a networking group. I was only in it for a little while. I didn't really need them to get busy. I needed to learn how to talk about my business. Mm-hmm. And I got Ian, who's my protege. I got him started in that so he can learn to talk about his business, build his confidence, have more other entrepreneurs who are also trying to grow to help you try and grow. Yeah. Right. But I went to a coffee with her. They have coffees. You get together and you talk about stuff and you learn how to give each other leads. That's by being really good at talking about your thing. And she caught me. Oh, she caught me. And I said, well, I don't really have time. And she was like, you said it 3 times. She said, you can't say that for a month. And I was just like, well, you can tell me what to do, but I'm going to play along. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you don't have time, Alex. You know this. And I did know this. You make time. If you want to do something, if you really want to do something, make time. So here's my way. When you talk about focus, how do you do this? This is exactly how I do this. And I also ask myself this for what I'm doing in the moment. Like, do I really want to be doing this? Is there an actual benefit? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? And I'll say, is it worthy is one way. For you, nobody else gets to judge this but you. Is this a worthy time? Is this a worthy experience? And sometimes it's bad. Sometimes you're having a really hard talk with your lover, or a kid or your dad or whatever. But is it worthy? Yeah, it's hard, but it's worthy. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if the answer is yes, then you keep going. If the answer is no, it's like, can I change something right now to make it that way? What are your options? And if the answer is yes, but not right now, okay, we'll put it down. A lot of people come in with problems and they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, are you circling on it? And they're like, oh yeah.
Rumination.
And I'm like, so here's the thing. The reason you're circling on it is because you've never actually activated the part of your brain that solves problems. You're just activating the part that worries. So here's what you do. If you keep coming up with it,
gosh,
if you keep coming up with it, then what you do is you say, what can I do right now? Okay, this is a real problem. I need to deal with it. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the calendar for tomorrow at 8:10 a.m. and take the 15 minutes it takes to do this so I can sleep. And then you put it away, and then you've put it somewhere, and you know you're going to do it. And you tell yourself, I will do it. And then if you don't, you schedule a new time, and you forgive yourself immediately, and you just keep moving forward. Stop stopping yourself. So you can keep going on that chain. Ask yourself, is it? And if you get to the place where you're like, no, I don't actually see any value in my doing this. It doesn't matter what you do. It could be a doctor's exam. I don't care. I mean, don't, you think about it. But you could be anywhere. And the answer is no, there's actually no value for me in this. I'm not learning anything new. I'm not gaining anything from this. Then get up and go do something else. Yep.
I've been feeling that more recently in life.
Yeah.
Well, and as someone starting their own business, right, they take on every single piece of that, execution, marketing, finance, management, recruiting, trying to tell the story, sales.
It's good. Nice exhaustive list. I like that.
Yeah, and that's the daily list. But I think, to your point, there's the business side of this where you hear people say, like, and I like the model of, like, you grit it out, and top left is I'm good at it and I love it. I'm good at it. I don't love it. I don't love it, but I'm good at it. I'm not good at it and I hate it. But like, to your point, even if there's something in that I'm not good at it and I hate it for today, today you may have to do it. But to your point of just analyzing, is it worthy? Is it intentional? Is it getting to the place that I want to be for now? Right. Even to your point, forgiving yourself immediately. Like, how many people need to forgive themselves that it's okay that I fucking hate this? I forgive myself for absolutely hating this, but I know it's required, and I know that a month from now I'm going to delegate it, hire out, stop doing it, whatever it is, right? But just going through that mental process.
I'm so glad you went there because that's actually the thing. It's like, no, there's not really a situation where you ever really have to. It might be expedient. Yeah, because we think about that a lot. Because America is really about expedient. Oh, it must be expedient. It must be efficient. I really like because efficient actually has more to do with you. I'm not wasting my energy. That's great. Expedient, that says time is more important than I am. And fuck that. It's not more important.
Oh, it's good.
So if you have a thing like that, I'm not good at it and I don't like it. Nah, man, hire to your weakness. And weakness is not even the best word there. Hire to the no, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
I need it, but I don't wanna. Okay, put that in that column and hire to it. Hire to it immediately. Like if you're like, well, my thing can't move forward, and it's like, well, what I'm saying when I say I don't wanna and I'm not gonna and I need to, really, I'm having a lot of fun with meter here.
You've made a great Southern version of this scale.
So if you have that and you're like, but I have to, and like, no. What you're saying is you're under supported. You just did that for yourself. You just delved and said, I'm under supported. I have to do this thing. It's like, back up. You can always go, wait, okay, I just identified like 4 things that need to be done in order to get it done. And yet I don't want to do them. And I'm going to kind of have to. It's like, yeah, you can do that. So what's your level of strain? What's your acceptable amount of put yourself through crap? It should be low. It should be very low. I mean, I'm really good at analogies, so I can make them all day long. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to do this yoga class, but I got the dog, Okay, yeah, okay, I hear you, but that's low. But like, if it's getting up here into this middle range right there, man, take your time. Do you have 5 things all rated to this that are that? Step back. Get the support for it. Do it. Get it. Because that is going to make you better. Think about this. I talk to people. Okay, we're going to get into another really simple thing that I do all the time with all of my clients. If you have a bunch of things to take care of, if you have a task list to take care of, John knows this. He can tell where I'm going. I say that smile. He's like, I know this. Maybe not with that voice because that was really goofy. And John's a lot cooler than I am that way. But like, if you have a bunch of list of things to do, what order do you do them in? Okay, so let's equate it to getting all the apples off a tree. Where do you start? Do you take the apple off the top of the tree first? Right? And like, how hard was it to get the apple off the top of the tree with all the other apples in your way? Like, for real. I mean, think about this. But people will do this. Well, this is the most important thing, so I got to do that. And I'm like, so if you're that stressed out about it, why'd you wait so long to do it? And like, and not a judgment against yourself, but like, you don't have to do that to yourself. You don't have to drink poison. You don't have to turn on NPR when there's a political person on there that makes you sick every time they talk. You can turn that off. Walk out the door. The door is there. But if you take the things that are the easiest to do, you get a feeling of accomplishment and you gain momentum. If I got 15 things to do and one of them is rake the big ass yard and there's a lot of leaves, but the other, like, take that one trash bag out, put the dishes away, If you go through that in the pattern of it's easiest, by the time you get to the end thing, it's like, man, this is nothing. If you start out there, you're like, crap, I'm tired. I don't want to do the dishes. I'm going to lay down and take a nap.
Yeah.
So, like, just think about the whole situation,
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? So a lot of service-based individuals, solopreneurs, for some reason they all say they don't like. So many of them say they don't like sales, right? Which I've always loved sales, so I always thought that was kind of strange. It's like you've oriented your entire life to provide this service that you don't feel comfortable in selling. That's probably some things to talk through, but but to your
you've met me.
Yeah. But to your point, like sales from a percentage closure standpoint, confidence is the most important ingredient to any sales equation, right? Regardless of your pitch deck or your close or whatever, it doesn't matter. Confidence is the number one ingredient to have successful sales. And to your point, if you wake up on Monday with a list of 1 million things to do as a solopreneur, and then you say, well, I need money, so I'm going to sell first. And then you're selling this daunting list of shit that you have to
with
do.
The burden of all the other things you haven't done.
People feel that and they're like, I don't want to buy this. This feels heavy, And so
you're almost unloading your pain onto the sales pitch.
Yes.
Please, you know what you really need.
Please buy my thing so I can hire people. But doing some things that you're good at, you're quick at, and just checking them off so you can build that confidence and then go hit the sales. Very practical. But yeah, I think that's good advice.
I'm going to hit you on the sales piece. I mean, you knew it was going to happen, right? Yeah, I could see that, like, all right, I set him up for something he can get real quick. So if you're feeling that way, the chances are the way you're thinking about your sales is what's wrong. That's what's wrong. Because it's not you. It's not you that you're selling. Even if you're an actor and that's what you do, you're not selling you. You sell what you provide. That's your thing. If you sell a couch, you're not selling you and you're not selling the couch. You're selling what the couch does for the person. Does the person actually need it? Who are their ideal clients? If you think about, I'm providing a service and the service I provide is good. By the way, guys, don't ever do anything where you think it's not going to be good. It's not going to help somebody. Why would you ever work for someone who does something you don't like? Why would you invest in a company that makes a lot of money but you hate them? Don't do that. There was this guy that came in, and actually, I'll toss his name out. His name is Brandon Hatton. He's a financial advisor, and he came in and recorded a book in my studio, Conscious Wealth. And it's not for like people with less than $50,000. It's not that, but the concepts are still there. Like, invest in what you believe in. Spend your time on what you want to do. So if you hate sales, why are you there in the first place? But if you're good at it, how are you looking at it? What's your subjective point? Is it, I hate it because this? Or is it your hate because you have this attachment? It's the same thing as a kid who's like, I don't want to eat those kidney beans. Because what they actually have done is they've created a negative for themselves attachment to a thing without ever having done it. It looks weird. It looks like a poop. It looks like whatever. And they're like whatever. Question that attachment. Like, is that really weird? If not, and if you still hate it, question the attachment to doing it.
Well, I think it's interesting that you said you're not selling yourself, you're selling a product or service, and I think that helps understand and build confidence when you're selling. But when you're doing interaction with people and you're selling, like, they're going to buy you before they listen to what you have to offer.
Well, so here's the thing. What you just talked about is, who are your ideal clients? If you're selling as yourself. So one of the things, I've had a lot of different jobs. You talk about being a bipolar person when you're young. Like, I did probably over 100 different kind of jobs. And I was actually good at all of the jobs that I had. And
doesn't surprise me.
Because I cared. That's a big thing. But I went from an auto auction to selling cars at a dealership, and I did not like their policies. And they were had this way that they wanted. I started out as a greeter. So basically you soften people up before you hand them off to a salesperson. But essentially I was selling the car. And you know how I did it?
You were the sales fluffer?
I was the fluffer. I really was the fluffer. Yeah. And as the fluffer, I sold more cars than their top person.
Oh.
And you know how I did it? I just talked to people. So here's the thing. If you're doing sales, are you talking to people? Are you pushing something? Because if you're pushing something, you already failed. Maybe you sell 3 out of 1,000 calls. If you're talking to people and you actually are calling the people who need what you have, you sell a lot more. Because people know when you're being fake. People know when you hate it. When you do recordings,
Gosh,
right?
isn't that true?
Oh yeah, they feel it.
When you're doing a recording, if you're singing a happy song and you're like, I feel so happy, people look at you and it's like, I feel happy, and it's like, well, my voice, my timbre, and my pitch changed a little bit there, but just that smile, you can tell I'm smiling. Yeah. I worked at this not auto auction, last thing. I worked in a law firm for a while, and there was this woman there, and I loved her name was Claudette, and she would be like, Jerry Rice, please call the reception desk. Please call the reception desk. And she always lilted up, and I was just like, Bill Conley, please call the reception desk. Please call the reception desk. And it was just the difference between going up and down. But you wanted to call the reception desk because it was so happy.
I was about to say, I bet the percentage likelihood of people calling the desk when she said it versus you said it, she won.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, every time. People were like, oh, yeah, Claudia's calling. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
And she was friendly, and she was herself, and that's the thing. If you can't do that in sales, I don't care what you do. I've been a sales manager. I've done door-to-door art sales. I've done all kinds of crap things. And believe me, I did not and do not. And the money part of the transaction is actually my least favorite part of the transaction. Some of my favorite, there was a chiropractor, a couple chiropractors, and another person, and they just had a box, and people knew to put the money in there, and they really didn't even ask them. They asked the other people, what would I pay? And they put it in there, and they just never thought about it. They're super successful.
Yeah.
Super successful. But I transact, and part of the reason I do it is because there's something to be had there. Getting through that piece, getting over that scarcity piece, getting over that money is bad, getting over the transaction. I have a mentee, the neuroscientist, that she just came over last week and we're talking, and she was like, I've never had a conversation about money with anybody like this because I was, coming from not a job, not a employer, but a mentor. Don't be employers. I mean, employ people, but be a mentor. Don't do it unless you are going to do it, because otherwise it's like empty calories. It's like eating sugar, but there's no sustenance. Why would anybody work for someone who gives them nothing, no sustenance? And I don't care if you have benefits. I really don't care. You have the best dental plan. You can have the best insurance. You can have the best all that, the best gym. If you don't connect with those people, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. So she's talking to me about that. And we went back to that point. Too many asides. Oh, can he finally bring it back? Somebody hit me back for the first time.
I don't
I'm
remember
totally.
which point we're on.
I was talking about what we were talking about.
We were talking about sales. We were
Sales.
talking about priorities, the priority and how you prioritize your day, and getting quick wins so you can have confidence boosts for the things that may be harder or longer.
Yeah. Well, that train may have sailed. But yeah, we'll just move on.
Well, I do want to congratulate you that though you're our third guest, so it's not like we've had 100 guests, but we have now recorded the longest episode in the FocusCast history.
Oh, that's not surprising.
But
I figured it might happen.
What I'm so excited about is we're going to get on your calendar. If you're so willing, I would love to do a part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like what I would love to do is go and listen to this, and the listeners as well, pull out some pieces and go deeper on some of those pieces. So literally just take this episode, because there's so many nuggets, so many highlights, and just so much incredible quick wisdom pieces that I would love for us to take some of those out and do a deeper dive in a future episode, if that works with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love it. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's very important, man. You're paying it forward in a big way. So thank you for that.
So the last question for you is, what are you trying to accomplish right now? What's a personal goal that you want to say, I crushed that, I got to that point, or I do that now, or whatever it is? What are you working on now?
I like to break that up into things. That same guy who talked about, or woman actually, who talked about success, like there's the days you work, there's the day you work on your work and your days off. I like to take that and go like, and I said this to that same mentee that I was just talking to, is like, well, here's my mentor place where I'm coming with this. Here's my professional place. Here's my personal place, and professional personal place. And here's my artist place, because we're all those things, right? So we are all those things for sure, right? So personal place, I'm working on my house, like I'm going to be doing some work there, and I've got some outside and inside stuff. I'm putting up the website for the studio, because I have the studio's been underused, and it's really for community. It's not just me to go musically masturbate in there. I mean, we definitely do that. Music, I did that too. We're definitely doing that, but I want more community in there. I'm creating the Emerge Sound Healing. I got an admin wife. She's great. It's going to help me. Thank you, admin wife. I love you. She's going to help me with those websites. So the Emerge Sound Healing is going to have more stuff going on there. I plan on doing more recording there. I'm taking on this new mentee, which is really big, and she's probably going to come in doing personal training, and she's actually got a really good ear, which was amazing. She was really interested. So our first meeting, which was supposed to be talking about massage, was actually and personal training was actually more talking about music, because she could hear, when I go in there and I'm like, check out when I press this button, and you're like, I think I can hear a little bit of it. She was like, oh yeah, I totally hear that. I'm like, okay, we need to come work with me on this. So I've got that going on. And then 6 months out, we'll probably start to talk about more like integrating that. I'd like to be training more people. So my goal is, and it moves, because you got to look at the market. So like between the next 6 and 18 months, the goal is to start bringing people on to get up to a goal of having about 6 people underneath me, doing that work. So from that place, the other things are, I'm traveling. This year I'll be traveling around in the country. I know you guys are going to be doing some traveling. Next year we're planning to go out of the country first time with the kids, depending on world stuff, So that's the plan. But so really leveling up in ways that work for me within my energy and that I know that I can accomplish.
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Do it in a way that works for you.
I think that we say level up on almost every episode.
Yeah. I love too the language, because you got the sales language, crushing those goals. I'm like, oh yeah, man. And if you've ever worked for a sales company, you know how they treat people too. It's like you're an athlete and you got to go out there and give 115%.
Yeah, until you blow a knee and then they fire you.
Yep. And you have one bad month and they're like, we can't.
It's not working all of a sudden.
Yeah, that $10 an hour we pay you when you don't make the other averages, that's just really too much for us. I'm like, oh yeah, I know.
Well, congratulations on being a wonderful human being. And thank you for the pursuit of greatness, because now you can give back so much to everyone you serve. And thank you for being on this podcast.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And you guys are great. And you should do stand-up, man.
That's amazing.
And with that,
Thank you for
let's
listening
dance.
to the FocusCast.
And I gotta run because I have to pee so
YouTube.com/thefocuscast
bad.
and slap that subscribe button. Head to thefocuscast.com to share what you want to hear next. Go forth and be focused as boy.